Hello again. Welcome back to the program. This one's going to be for economic preppers here. We're going to talk about gold. And not so much the gold standard, but how did gold become money? And why is gold considered money? And I think that's an important thing to know. And I think it's an important thing to understand because, part of the history of money, right? And Mike Maloney does a great job of going over this. But I think it's important to understand why gold and other precious metals became money. And it really leads into the properties of money. So the first thing you need to know is that money what does money represent? Money represents our working value, our time. Let's get this locked down a little bit harder here. Let's keep this camera in place. All right. So when you work and you exchange your labor for time, or your time, you labor, and if you work, you want to get value back for it. Then we're going to start over. I had nothing to drink. All right. 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to everyone to the program. We're going to talk today about gold and money and how gold came to be money. And I think it's important for people to understand where we came from, how we got here, because it leads a lot towards the values and the ideas and the concepts behind money. So the idea of money itself, and again, Mike Maloney does a good job of explaining a lot of this, but money is a store of value. That's one of its jobs. And storing value means that if you're working and you get compensated for your time and your labor, you want to have that as a store of value so that you can spend it in the future, right? So if you work, let's just say in order for you to have enough gas and groceries today, you need to work 2 hours, but you worked 8. So you want to store those 6 hours of labor so you can have 3 more sets of groceries and 3 more tanks full of gas, okay? So the idea of money would be to store that as value so you can buy those things in the future. Now, the concept of money, where did it come from? Originally, people just bartered. They just traded for things, right? You would have, a goat and milk and bread and so on. But it was very inefficient, right? Because you'd have one person would have a goat, and one person would have cheese, and one person would have milk, and one person would have bread. And you would try to trade what you had for what you didn't have. So you'd have price inefficiencies because you have no idea, I can only trade either 1 goat or 0 goats. And then I'm going to trade, obviously some things are a little bit easier and smaller to break into smaller pieces, but without money in creating the value or pricing out the value of something, you don't have that interim means of exchange. So if you're trading a goat directly for bread, right, it's either 1 goat or 0 goats. You can't. But if you have money in between, you can trade that goat for a measure of value, say 1 gold coin, and use that gold coin, which is now money, in exchange for something else. So that's the job of money, is also to be an intermediary for exchange. So by having money, you have 2 different things. You can store value. You can also have a means of exchange for something to price it in. It's an ounce of silver, an ounce of gold, whatever it is. So when people started to understand the concept of money, and not just storing value, but also having it as a means for exchange, like you can buy something in gold or silver, and you price all different things in that monetary system, then you have the ability of the prices to stabilize. A gallon of milk is going to be an ounce of silver, for example, no matter what, and wherever you are, no matter what, and so on. But you don't know it in terms of goats or cheese wheels or anything like that if you're doing bartering. And again, you can also be very inefficient because you're localized. Like the price of milk may not be the same in California as it is in Texas because of the local markets and climate conditions. So almost because of this, people have used many different things for money in the past. They used beads, they used shells, they used tulips, but over time they have learned which things work best for money. And they have certain properties. One of them, it has to be durable, has to last. So using ears of corn or cattle for money, not a good idea because those have fixed lifetimes, whereas gold can last thousands of years. Another one is divisibility. Can I, one goat or 0 goats? It's kind of hard to divide up a goat, but you can divide up coins or metal or monetary metals and even pieces of paper if you're going to use that from a form of money or currency. It's easier to divide that up. But another property is, like several other properties, like acceptability has to be accepted most everywhere, because some people may take beads, some people may take gold, but most people in the world right now, they take gold. So over time, money evolved to something that was durable and lasted, something that was scarce, hard to get, took work to acquire, like digging gold out of the earth, had a pretty well-known established rate of discovery. Gold, it turns out, is actually around 2% a year, 1 to 2%, which kind of matches what they try to say is the inflationary rate, but it's not. It's a random coincidence there, or maybe it isn't. But that's their metric of 2% inflation is loosely based on gold, but it's also based on just things that people have said in the past of this is what we're targeting. But money is, the forms of money are always gravitate towards something that lasts a long while, is scarce, is divisible, is accepted everywhere. Fungibility, which means that every ounce is the same or every unit of measure is the same. So 1 ounce of gold is just like any other ounce of gold. So you can exchange them pretty much, dollar for dollar, coin for coin. That's the idea. So that's just how things evolved into money. So when we talk about the gold standard, I thought it was important to explain where the gold standard came from and how gold established itself as money, because it's become very well known that it's very durable. It's relatively easy to divide into coins. Can be made uniform by stamping or minting coins. It's pretty scarce. It's durable. It's fungible. It's divisible. It's got all those properties of money. It's accepted. And then, if you're going to look at other forms of money that could potentially be out there, such as cryptocurrencies, you have to compare their properties to those of gold. And how scarce is it? How rare? How divisible? All those things need to become a factor. And in fact, if you look at the properties of Bitcoin and Litecoin compared to gold and silver, you could make a very strong argument that Bitcoin is a better form of gold, digital gold, than gold itself, which is why that's the nickname for Bitcoin. It's digital gold, because it's more divisible because it's digital, so it could have multiple decimal places. It's more secure because you don't need a Brinks truck and security guards to move it like gold. You can actually just send it electronically, safely and securely, of course, but it's easier to move than a physical bar of gold or a truckload or so on. It's also harder to counterfeit, and it's the most scarce asset there is, because Bitcoin and Litecoin have absolutely fixed supplies that can't be changed, unless the miners make up the miners are the only ones that would have a say in whether that would be accepted or not, and they would never vote for an increase of supply, because that would decrease the value of their existing Bitcoin or Litecoin. So and that's pretty much true of any Bitcoin or Bitcoin derivative like Litecoin, Digibyte, or most other proof of work coins as well, and tokens like that. So again, learning the properties of money. So now that you have it's like when you learn a language, you learn the foundations. You learn the foundations of money, the principles of money, and now you understand why gold became money. And now you have basis of comparison. Like, okay, here's the properties of gold. Here's the properties of Bitcoin. How do they compare? Like, again, the scarcity. Bitcoin's more scarce because you can discover more gold, whereas you cannot with Bitcoin. It's written into the computer program how much there's ever going to be. Same thing about divisibility. You can get way more divisible with a digital asset than a physical asset. So, again, properties of money are important to understand and have that foundation so you can compare intelligently what poses as money and which poses as currency, and where currency is another form of money. However, it does not hold value over time. That's why the fiat currencies do not last ever, because they erode in value because of the inherent inflation that's baked into the system. So That's about all I have for today. I'm going to leave it there for now. What are your thoughts on the foundations of money? And I'll be talking more about picking up that the gold standard fallacy and where we're left with that with the history, and more to come on that. So if you like these kinds of videos, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below. I'll read them all. I'll get back to them all. So all that said, I'm going to leave it there for now. Be prepared, not scared, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.